Thanks for joining us for Ohio and Company. I'm Eve Mueller. On today's show, now is a perfect time to go back to school. We highlight a great program for you in one of the most rewarding careers. Plus, if you're overwhelmed, wishing for focus and balance in your life, you might consider a life coach. A life coach will hold you accountable and help you keep on track with those goals you have. Sounds good, doesn't it? But first, if you're looking for your next big career move, we have some tips on how to make that great impression during the big interview. And joining us now is Wade Meyer with Inviting Conversations and Kathy McGranahan, an adjunct professor at Capital University. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, Wade, we've talked about this before. It's a tough job market, getting a little better out there for people, but tough still. How do people make that first great impression?
It is amazing, Eve, how we can talk with them over and over again about making that impression, and we still see people show up to interviews wearing flip-flops or showing up completely unaware of the person or even the company with whom they are interviewing. So I asked Kathy to join us. I've had a chance to work with Kathy in some interview settings, and I thought she would be perfect for helping us, again, remember some of the things we need to know as we prepare for a professional interview.
So, Kathy, let's start with them. What are some of the do's and don'ts of interviewing? Some big ones.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome.
And when you present yourself to the company, your first impression is your only impression that they remember. You want to go with a smile on your face, and of course, you want to make sure that your impressions that you give them are what you want them to see. Make sure you know that you're happy to be there, you want to be there, and really, you shouldn't go into an interview if you're not interested in working for that company.
Right. Is there anything that when you're there you shouldn't ask the company? Is there a big no-no?
Shouldn't ask.
Or should you be able to ask anything you want of the company?
You should be able to ask things that relate to the job, of course, but you don't want to breach benefits and money first off, because really you want to see if you're a right fit for the position, not necessarily exactly what am I going to get from you money-wise. You want to show them what your talents and skills are, not necessarily what am I going to get from you. It's what you can give to the company.
And you're obviously going to get to that stuff in the second or third interview if they're really interested in you.
That's
right?
correct, yes.
So I had a friend who told me he had an 18-hour interview recently, and one of the most challenging parts of the interview, he was passed around to different partners to ask questions, the most challenging was a guy who just said, well, what questions do you have for me? And so he said, thank goodness I did my homework. So this does happen, right? The tables are turned, and sometimes you're there, you think you're going to be interviewed, but they turn it on you and say, what do you have to ask us?
Well, think of it this way. Think of it as a project for the company. If you were to work for that company, how would you present yourself and have things ready for them if it was a project? Think of it as a project. What can I show this company that is about me? I've researched them. I know what their assets are. I know what their market is.
And I think a lot of people forget, too, about one key element of interviewing is body language. You need to be open, don't you? And not, don't cross your arms. Even if you're cold or something, you just have to think about those things, don't you?
Yes, because if you're open with them, you'll get an insight to what they're looking for. And if you're truly not you, how can you work for a company that doesn't represent who you are as a person? You have to keep that in mind as well.
I'm sure that a lot of people don't give the impression that they want to give, and maybe it's a false impression. I know I've been interviewing people where I thought they were terrific and maybe they didn't turn out to be. So it's a hard thing for a boss. This is good information for bosses out there too who, don't really know how to read people correctly. So what do you do? How do you pull off the good combination of explaining enough about yourself but not feeling like you're being egotistical, because you want to share some of your great accomplishments?
Well, for example, if they have a question, make sure you have an example of how you benefited, whether if you have a lot of volunteer experience or whether it's educational experience or job experience. Relate that to the topic at hand and formulate how you made the situation better and how you were able to either learn from that lesson or how you were able to make the company better from that experience, and kind of parallel how that would be and how it relates to that company.
And Wade, you're going to have some of these tips on your website to share?
Absolutely. In working with Kathy, we have noticed a question will come up that will say something like, give an experience of a success that you've had in a business. One tip that we tell people is for everything that's on your resume, already have in your mind stories to support that, specific stories. I did this project, this was the outcome with these people. A lot of people who are interviewing, they answer in such generalities. It's not egotistical to relay what you did and let them decide the value of it. It is to say, well, I'm the best at everything I do. Okay, give me an example. And yes, that answer has happened. You know, well, I'm the best at what I do. Give me a specific example. So a big tip is to get people to think specific stories that represent what I can do.
Well, great information to share with people today as they go on those job searches or the next career move. Wade Meyer with Inviting Conversations, Kathy McGranahan. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And for more information, you can go to Inviting Conversations at invitingconversations.com. Up next, going back to school, we'll tell you about the Master of Arts in Teaching degree at Muskingum University. Stay with us for more Ohio and Company.